Welcome to FPL Selection. Today we'll take a look at how the team is shaping up for Game Week 6, but first a quick look at how we got on in Game Week 5. So 66 points and inside the top million for the first time this season. Easily my best game week so far. Clean sheets from Pope and Senesi, who also picked up the Defcon along with Tarkovsky. Fernandez, Reinders, Ekatike and Mateta all picking up returns, and another captaincy return from Salah. So even had some points across the bench, so all looking very healthy after the wild card in game week 3. And yeah, not too much to complain about. So yeah, looking quite positive now, and yeah, think I'm well set up for the next few weeks. So now looking ahead to game week 6. I have 3 transfers in the bank, and I'm planning to use all 3 this week in order to get Haaland in. Firstly, I need to downgrade Saliba to free up some budget. So I'm looking at one of the Sunderland centre-backs, Alderete and Mukiele, both only 4 million. To be honest, I've taken a good look at this, sort of having an Arsenal defender, and that was always the plan when I wildcarded in game week 3 was, I'd want an Arsenal defender, but just seeing the way that all these Defcon defenders, are picking up the extra 2 points every week, I just don't feel like having a 6 million defender is worth it when you can get, all these cheaper players at 4.5 or even 4 million for some of them, pick up sort of 3-4 points a game. It's happening very regularly for quite a few of these players, so I just think with Saliba, the chances of him getting it are not that high. The clean sheets will come, but I just don't see how they're going to get enough clean sheets, to outscore all these defenders that are getting the Defcons most weeks. So I think, it just makes sense in my team. I'm going to play the other 3 defenders, Senesi, Tarkovsky and Lacroix every week. So I just think I can just add another one and free up the money there. So not really sure, if there's a good or a bad option really out of the 2 Sunderland centre-backs. I think Alderete's just looked a bit more threatening at set pieces. And also with the suspension for Reynildo, I think Mukiele could potentially move to fullback. I'm not sure they want to break those 2 up, but I just think I'm just going to probably just go Alderete, not overthink it, and I'm sure either one of them will do all right and get you sort of 3-4 points a week. Then just to free up a bit more budget, I'm going to downgrade Ekatike to Mark Guiu. He's the cheapest striker in the game at 4.3. It's just going to be a dead spot on my bench. I don't mind just having the 2 playing subs, which will both be 4 million defenders. So I think I'm well covered with that, and he might even get some minutes later in the season if Chelsea have a bit more rotation and maybe a few more injuries. And then Haaland will come in for Watkins. He's the best captain for this week, so I'd always planned to try and bring him in game week 6. So for me it was always a plan, and he's obviously in great form, and there's no point in not having him for Burnley at home. So I'm doing quite well so far, and I don't want to suddenly lose all the momentum by not having the best captain this week. The way I've done this as well has also allowed me to keep Salah, so I can also bring in one of the Arsenal attackers in the next 2 weeks. So I think my squad's well set up. I'm happy that I can keep Salah as well. Gives me another nice captaincy option. And I think it's going to, be a sort of a long-term structure here where I have both. Because I think the fixtures, both of them are great runs in sort of game week 12, 13. So I think I'm just going to keep both of them all the way through. And, I can, at least I've got 2 good captaincy options every week. So moving on now to the team. Pope is at home to Arsenal. Obviously not the best fixture on paper there, but Newcastle have done really well in the home games against Arsenal in the last couple of years. I think it's 1-0 in both the league games the last 2 seasons, and they beat them there in the League Cup last year. They just know how to set up and just be difficult to beat against the bigger sides. They've had the best defence so far this season. I think it's less than 3 expected goals against in the 5 games so far. And yeah, Pope's obviously a great keeper. He's going to be busy. I'm sure he's going to have something to do. But yeah, I think it's a good chance of a potential, another shut-up shop job from Newcastle. And yeah, I'm sort of quietly confident there. There's a good chance of a clean sheet. And Senesi is away to Leeds. He's hit DEFCON in all 5 games and just keeps returning the points. Bournemouth are getting clean sheets as well. Leeds, I know they had 3 goals against Wolves last week, but they haven't scored that many goals otherwise. So I think there's a good chance here again that we're going to see a clean sheet for Bournemouth. And, Senesi's he's so high on the DEFCON numbers. I can see him hitting it in, a good 60-70% of the games this season, which, is why he's going to be in a lot of people's teams, I think, and it keeps going up in price because, yeah, it's 4.8 now, but for that price, to start every game at 4 points, it's, too good to turn down, I think. And Tarkowski is at home to West Ham. He's also had the DEFCONs in all 5 games. So same story with him. You're starting on 4 points effectively. West Ham are the worst for conceding from set pieces this season. I know that Tarkowski hasn't really been getting on the end of many of the corners and free kicks so far. Seems to be Michael Keane seems to be the one that they're sort of picking out. Maybe that's just a bit of a decoy, and because Tarkowski's normally the first name you'd look at on that Everton team. So, but I think the way West Ham are defending at the moment, there's potentially anyone in that Everton team, might get something in from a set piece. So, yeah, I think if Everton score the first goal, I think West Ham are going to lose their heads again, which they've done quite a few times this season. So, yeah, it could be a clean sheet potential here as well. Then Lacroix is at home to Liverpool. Palace are unbeaten in, I think, 17 games now, going back to last season. They've got one of the best defensive records since Glasner went in there. And they played really well against Liverpool in the Community Shield earlier in the season. So it is a difficult fixture. You'd always expect Liverpool to score. But I think, Palace should give them a good game. I think Lacroix is always a threat at set pieces. Hit the bar last week. And obviously he's very good for DEFCON. So, he might have a little bit to do in this one. And good chance of picking up that base of 4 points. So I think there's something there for him. And I certainly wouldn't be benching a DEFCON defender against a good attack like Liverpool because, there's a good chance you're going to get 3 or 4 points at a minimum. And then Sunderland are away to Forest. So either Alderete or Mukiele will be in my team by the weekend. Forest are slowly becoming a bit more attacking now, obviously with Ange coming in. So I think, the Sunderland defence is going to be fairly busy. So I think there's a good chance of hitting DEFCONs. And that's what I'm playing. Whoever I do pick, I'll be playing them ahead of Barnes. He'll probably have another 1-pointer. So, I'll happily take 3 points from this game. And I think, the way that the Sunderland defence, the centre-backs there are doing really well for DEFCON. So, good chance of it in this one. Now, moving on to the midfield. Salah is away at Palace. It is a difficult game, this one. As I mentioned earlier, Palace's defence has been one of the best under Glasner. And the 17 games that are unbeaten, I haven't looked recently, but it was, I think when you look back at last season, a lot of those games were against the bigger sides. They just seem to be, they really like playing against teams where they're going to, give up the ball and they can play on the counter-attack. They've got a good defensive shape. So I think it's going to be a really difficult game for Salah and Liverpool. He always tends to find a way. And I think he has a decent record against Palace historically. He struggled against Mitchell in the Community Shield, but again, we don't really know. Salah has looked a bit off of it so far. So, he's definitely improving as the weeks are going on. So, I'm not too hopeful in this one. That's obviously why I'm bringing in Haaland for the captaincy this week, because I don't fancy Salah in this game. But as we've seen already this season, he never plays well and still gets the points. So That's why he's in everyone's teams. And Fernandes is away to Brentford. United have a pretty poor record at the G-Tech. And it'd be typical of us after a good result. We always tend to put in a bad performance the following week against a team, we should be beaten really. So I'm not expecting a high scoring game here, and I think it will be a difficult one for United. But, the reason we all put Fernandes in our teams is the routes to points. He always finds a way, whether it's a penalty, whether he's, getting an assist from a set piece maybe, or as he did last week, got on the end of a cross into the box. He's just, got all the options to, find some points. So I'm expecting United to be struggling, and, hopefully Fernandes will be able to pull something out and get the result there. And Reinders is at home to Burnley. He's finally got some returns last week after looking threatening in most of the matches. He's going to be really important for City in this game. Burnley are going to have a low block, and they're going to force City to try and play through them. I think Reinders late runs into the box. He's going to have to time them well, and it's going to be crucial for them to have those runners just to break the lines and try to get through that defence, because we saw in the Liverpool game, they made it really difficult for them. But I think if City get an early goal, I think there's a good chance they'll rack up a few in this one. We saw United, I think, hit well over 20 shots against Burnley a few weeks ago. So yes, they can be a good defence, but I think if you can open them up just a little bit, is drop the heads a little bit, maybe the first goal, there's a good chance that City will put a few past them. And Anderson is at home to Sunderland. He's picked up DEFCON in the last 2 weeks, and that should continue because he's been putting up good numbers all season. And especially with Ange coming in, playing a more attacking style, should mean, Anderson will get more recoveries and tackles because, the games are going to be more open. 4 points a game, absolutely perfect for a 5.5 midfielder. So I'm not asking for any more than that. And I'll be expecting to get that in most of the games from him, just with the way he plays and how Forest are going to be set up. And moving on now to the forwards. So as I said earlier, Haaland will be coming in for the Burnley at home fixture. He's definitely the best captain this week, so it makes sense to bring him in. He's been the top point scorer so far. He's had the most expected goal involvement of any player, and he's up against the team with the most expected goals against. So, I think I'm probably going to play the triple captain this week. It's unlikely we'll have any double game weeks in the first half of the season. So I think for a single fixture, we've got one of the most reliable point scorers up against, really poor defence. Early in the season, so he's still fresh. There's less chance of him, getting brought off early or any rotation. He's in good form. Just think there's no point overthinking it. Just get on and get it done, I think. It makes sense. And Mateta is at home to Liverpool. So as I was saying earlier, on paper it's not an ideal fixture, but Liverpool haven't really played that well so far this season. They've got the results and they keep getting the late goals, but Palace gave them a really good game in that Community Shield. And, Liverpool, we've seen they're susceptible to the counter, which is, Palace's specialty, when they come up against the bigger sides especially. So, I won't be surprised to see Palace get a good result. And Mateta is obviously the talisman. He's always likely to be involved in their goals. He scored a penalty in that Community Shield game in normal time as well. So, I think it's something you don't expect too much from, but no, I'm quite confident he'll get some chances in the game. And as we've seen with him in the last sort of 18 months, he is a good finisher when he does get the chances. So in summary, I'll be bringing Haaland in with the free moves I mentioned earlier. Definitely captain him, and most likely I'll be using the triple captain too. Vice captaincy will be on Salah. Barnes is benched. Just don't have any confidence he's going to start. It'll probably be another 1-pointer for him, and he'll be out the door next week, most likely. So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.